How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be starting a new series called The Story of New World, in which I will redo the entire main story questline and summarize the lore behind the game. So for those of you who skipped the dialogue, or who played the story before it got revamped, you can experience it without having to make a whole new character and go through the leveling process again. But before we get into that, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. It helps out massively. Now, let's get started. Chapter 1. The Island of Aeternum. I was approached by a man named Captain Thorpe, an English privateer, to accompany him on his ship, Ambition, to an uncharted island rumored to be filled with immense riches. Captain Thorpe was told by a mysterious old priest that not only would this island provide the crew with riches, but there are mystical properties on this island that can unlock the secret to eternal life and bring us power beyond our wildest dreams. However, all who have seeked out this island before us have mysteriously vanished, never to be heard of again, all bearing the priest Thorpe talked to. He knows not how he survived the horrific events that fell upon his crew, but somehow he made it home alive and returned with the strange mystical box that he found on the island. This box was the key to getting back to the island, and it would guide anyone who had it in their possession to it. Upon recruiting enough men willing to venture forth with us, we set out on our expedition to find this island, but we had no idea what we were in for. After several grueling days at sea, we finally found what appeared to be the island. There was a strange red glowing matter emanating off of parts of the island, nothing like I'd ever seen before. However, as we neared closer to the island, a massive thunderstorm surrounded the ship, tearing it to shreds and sending me and the rest of the crew hurtling into the cold, dark sea. The waves around me were too large to see the rest of the crew, so I started swimming desperately towards the island, hoping that the ocean wouldn't swallow me up whole. After what seemed like hours of swimming, I finally made it to the shore. As I regained my senses from the long swim, I noticed Captain Thorpe only a short distance away from me, but he looked to be in bad shape. There was a strange liquid-like substance floating around him. As I neared closer to him to attempt to tend to his injuries, a grotesque, undead-looking creature jumped out of nowhere and ambushed me. I'm not the most experienced fighter with my sword, but I managed to outwit and outmaneuver the creature, and eventually I dealt the killer blow. It looked almost human, yet it fought with an animalistic nature, and didn't appear to be able to be reasoned with. After regaining my wits from what had just occurred, I went over to tend to the captain. Apparently he too had been ambushed by a similar looking creature, but he was not so lucky, as the creature ran him through with its blade. The wound he received was too grave to be tended to with the limited supplies at my disposal, so all that was left to do was stay by him as he passed on to the afterlife. Thorpe tells me that there's a lady's voice in his head, telling him to get back that box that brought us here, but he lost it when the ship went down. With his dying breath, he orders me to go search the beach and recover that box, which I intended to do. Before I set out, though, I had a quick check to see if the captain had anything on him that could be of use to me on the journey ahead. Luckily, he had a couple of light rations on him that could help me fend off starvation for a couple of days until I could find another source of food on the island. He also had an old round shield that could come in handy against the rest of these creatures who were wandering around the beach. I proceeded to fight my way across the beach, taking out every creature in sight, searching high and low for this box, until out of nowhere, I hear a lady's voice inside my head as well. She seemed friendly enough, welcoming me to her island in a thick Spanish accent. Finally, after searching for ages, I found the box. It floated eerily in the air over a rock, and I felt a pulling presence towards it. As I picked it up, I was filled with a strange and powerful energy. As I regained my senses, the lady's voice returns to me once again. However, this time, she seems to have become very angry with me, saying that it was her destiny to absorb whatever power was within that box. I see a small pathway leading up the side of the mountain at the edge of the beach, so I devise a plan to head up the hill to get an aerial view of my surroundings so I can plan my next move. As I fight my way through the creatures to get to the mountain path, I feel myself becoming more and more powerful with the weapon I'm wielding, and I begin learning new ways to use it more effectively. It's as if the power from the box is allowing me to do things I could never do before. As I finally get to the path, I make my way to the top of the mountain, and I'm shocked to see the immense size of the island. It's as if it goes on for miles. Despite the shipwrecks and the strange floating rocks in the distance that were unlike anything I'd seen before, there was a weird beauty to the island. Part of it terrified me, but the other part was angelic. I took a few minutes to gather my thoughts and devise a plan, and then I pressed on down the path into what appeared to be a dark, smoky grotto. As I descended down the path, I noticed a strange lighting structure that looked man-made. Hopefully I wasn't the only one on this island. With that thought in mind, I pressed on, only to be startled once again by the lady's voice in my head. She was furious with me, saying I made the wrong choice not doing as she commanded, and that my soul now belonged to her. Before I could even stop and think what that could even possibly mean, I see what appears to be a man in the distance, a man that looks an awful lot like Captain Thorpe. As I approached him, I was shocked to find out it actually was him. The same Thorpe that died in front of my eyes just a few moments before on the beach was now standing in front of me. Yet this time, he did not speak. He only moaned and screeched, and his eyes glowed bright red. He picked up the large sword that was stuck in the ground beside him and began walking to me, fire covering the entire blade. It was clear that he meant me harm, and that the old captain was no longer in there, so I prepared myself for battle. It was a long and arduous battle, but after what seemed like an eternity, I started to gain the upper hand in the battle. Then, when it seemed I had him beat, Thorpe flew up into the air and began to shoot some kind of strange energy towards me. I tried my best to hold off the force of the energy with my shield, but it was too much for me to handle, and eventually the energy broke through the shield and consumed me, before everything around me faded to black. I came to on a beach, different from the last one, with a man off in the distance. I approached him, and we exchanged introductions. His name was Layson Reese, and he was a watcher for a nearby settlement known as Monarch's Bluff. He would then go on to hit me with a bombshell that shook me to my very core. I just died, and had been dead for several minutes, before being resurrected here on this beach. Apparently, on this strange island that he informed me is known as Aeternum, the rules of death do not apply. When you die, your soul is reborn. However, some unlucky few return without their soul, and they are referred to as the lost. Or even worse, some come back with their souls twisted, possessed by insatiable evil. They are referred to as the corrupted. Their only desire is to kill everything on Aeternum in order to grow their numbers and spread the corruption. Luckily, however, I was one of the few to return with my soul intact. After catching me up to speed on what's been going on this island, Layson informs me that it's his job to help everyone that washes up on Aeternum get settled in and teach them the skills needed to survive this grueling island. He notices I lost my boots in the storm and graciously gives me a spare pair before sending me off to gather some flint and wood so he can show me how to make a skinning knife. After getting everything I needed, I met back up with him at the watchtower, where I used his camp to craft a knife that I could use to skin animals all over the island for their meat, which would provide an excellent food source while on Aeternum. Layson then informs me of an area not too far from here full of boars that I should head to go test out my new skinning knife. Upon killing my first boar, I skinned it and headed back to camp to cook its meat into a couple of rations that would keep me well fed for the next couple of days. Now that I had everything I needed to provide myself with food, Layson informed me of a town just up the road called Pridewin. But before I would head there, he could use some help on the beach, and since he'd been such great help to me, I wanted to return the favor. Layson says there's a storm wall that surrounds the Island of Aeternum, destroying any ship that tries to enter or leave the island, turning everything on board into corrupted abominations. However, usually this storm only takes down a couple ships per season, and most of the crew on the ships manages to make it through with their soul intact. But recently, the storm has been attracting and destroying tons of ships and corrupting every soul on the ship. Layson has decided something needs to be done about it before it gets any worse, and that's where I come in. With the increased number of corrupted washing up on the shores by the hour, I need to help thin out the herd. Layson sends me to a small island just off the beach and informs me that the shipwrecked on that island is the ship I came on, the Ambition. My former crewmates have fallen to the corruption and are gathering around the ship, so it was up to me to head over there and stop the spread. Plus, I could see if I could salvage anything from the wreckage of my old ship. With the newfound power I had gained from the strange box, it was an easy task to deal with the corrupted, and I managed to salvage some useful equipment from the area as well. With the task complete, I headed back to Layson, who informed me that more and more shipwrecks keep washing up on the shore by the hour, which is not normal on Aeternum. He believes something or someone is causing this. While he devises a plan, I headed off to continue to slow the spread of corruption, and see if anyone else might have survived the storm wall. As I headed out on my task, I was once again revisited by the voice of the strange woman in my head, revealing to me that she is the one controlling the corrupted, and that it's only the beginning. Soon, it will be all of humanity under her control. If what she was saying is true, everyone on this island and the rest of the world could be in grave danger. I was brought back to reality by the sound of a woman in the distance calling for help. She was surrounded by corrupted and being overwhelmed, so I made my way over to lend a hand. After clearing the area, I followed her to a nearby safe zone. She introduced herself as Grace O'Malley, a pirate whose ship had been destroyed by the storm wall as well. She agreed to head back with me to Layson at the watchtower, but first she wanted to salvage the remaining nearby wrecks for any valuables. After I haggled her down from an initial 70-30 split to a 50-50 split in profits, I agreed to help her with the salvaging. After all, I was going to need some coins to purchase supplies in the town. We split up, with Grace going to see if she can salvage anything from her ship, and I went to check out the other ship in the distance. I managed to find a decent amount of valuables, but upon regrouping, I came to find out Grace wasn't so lucky, as her ship was covered in corrupted. She seemed distraught by the thought of leaving her keepsakes to be lost to the ocean, so I offered to go get what she needed. She was so appreciative of the gesture that she offered me a 70-30 split of the profits in my favor. As I made my way to her ship, there was a lot of corrupted, but nothing I couldn't handle with the newfound power I felt since arriving to the island. I recovered all the items Grace asked me to look for, and, even more importantly, I found a strange magical weapon in the wreckage that drew me to it. It was an unusual wooden staff that had the ability to manipulate fire. The longer I held onto the weapon, the stronger I felt with it. I gave it a go on the rest of the corrupted remaining on the beach, and it tore through them like a hot knife through butter. I also managed to find a rapier laying in the sand, which would definitely come in handy if any of the corrupted get up close and personal. With my newfound equipment and Grace's keepsakes in hand, I headed back to the watchtower to convene with Grace and Layson. As I arrived, Layson informed me that he may have found the cause of the more frequent storms, and that we must head to a sea cave nearby where a load of corrupted are gathering and protecting whatever is going on inside. I tried to convince Grace to come along and help, but like the pirate she isn't interested in joining us. Instead, she insists on heading back to their town to sell what we managed to salvage, and assures me she will have my share of the coin waiting when I meet back up with her in town. So Layson and I head to the cave entrance, without Grace, to put an end to this storm problem. As we got nearer, and Layson saw the extent of the corrupted presence in the area, he decided to revise the plan, and says we should head back to town instead, gather up a bunch of sellswords, and come back with larger numbers. But I wasn't up for that. The corruption was spreading fast, and if what the lady in my head was saying is true, this needed to be dealt with now, or everything and everyone could be lost. Layson was reluctant to agree, but eventually he gave in. With the power of the box at my disposal, and my new powerful fire staff in hand, I headed into the corrupted cave alone. The cave was dark, damp, and filled with corrupted. After fighting my way through the cave for what felt like a millennia, I came across the strange corrupted veil. The fire from my staff tore through the veil easily, and on the other side, I could see a different looking kind of corrupted that I had never seen before. He was larger, and looked more spiritual than the others. He seemed to be performing some kind of ritual on some strange magical orb-like object in front of him. As I got closer to the creature, it turned my way and began to charge me. After a very hard-fought battle, I managed to defeat the corrupted priest, and the glowing object he seemed to be chanting towards previously vanished. I headed back to the watchtower to reconvene with Layson, and he informed me that whatever it was I did stopped the storms for now. But he's never seen anything like this before in the 300 years he's been on Aeternum. He'd been told stories from people who'd been on the island even longer than him of a dark sorcerer, centuries ago, who managed to control the corruption and almost corrupted everyone on Aeternum. He was worried this could be happening again. Maybe that is what the lady in my head is trying to accomplish. But for now, he needed one last favor of me, to deliver a report of the incidents that took place on the beach to the town and inform everyone we're safe for now, but to stay vigilant. He also gives me a rather nifty watcher's uniform for all the great work I helped him accomplish. After saying our farewells for now, I headed towards the town to deliver the report and meet back up with Grace to see if she was successful in selling the loot we managed to salvage. Along my journey though, I was interrupted once again by the lady in my head, who says it's time I learned the full truth, and she leads me to an ancient statue off in the bushes. As I touch the statue, I'm filled with visions about the secrets of Aeternum and the life of this lady who has been haunting my mind.
This island has always guarded the promise of paradise. Humanity cast out, deemed unworthy of such blessings. But I did not come here seeking paradise. I came for answers. Redemption after a life of weakness and suffering. And I found a truth that disproved everything I had been taught. I tasted the knowledge forbidden to us at creation, and I saw the vision of humanity's true potential. I knew then, I must correct this ancient injustice and restore the power which is rightfully ours. The heart of the mountain now beats strong with this purpose. After a century of preparation, our campaign has begun. The island's townships already fall before the might of our armies. The only thing I had not foreseen is you. You, who have stolen the gift meant for me. And now your soul will pay the price. For I will not stop until I have seized back the destiny stolen from us and brought true freedom to the world, both old and new.
I awoke from the visions with a heightened sense of urgency, and made my way towards the town with great haste. This lady had pure evil intentions, and I needed to stop her before it was too late. As I climbed the hill and began to see the town in the distance, I was shocked and amazed. It was no small town like how I'd pictured it in my head, but a massive city, surrounded by a monumental wall. If the people on this island are this civilized, maybe we do stand a chance against the crazy lady in my head and her army of corrupted. As I approach the gate into the city, a man in a full set of medieval plate armor greets me. A strange thing to be wearing on such a tropical island. But then again, nothing seems to be normal on the Island of Aeternum. But that ends Chapter 1. Let me know what you think of the series in the comments below. All feedback is much appreciated. Chapter 2 will be out soon, so stay tuned. Also, if you enjoyed it, please leave a like on the video, and while you're at it, why not subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified when Chapter 2 goes live. But until next time, have a good one. Thanks for watching another video. If you want to see Chapter 2, if it's available, then click on the video to the left. Or, if you'd like to check out my other series, Boss Battles, in which I will kill 50 of every boss in New World and rank them on a leaderboard, click on the video to the right.